looking forward to the derby and a chance to get a win after 10 on the trot by the Eagles?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as a footy club to put ourselves in position at 5-2 as well is a great opportunity for us to keep the momentum that we've built over the last couple of weeks, and as you said, the last 10 for not only us as a team but as a footy club and supporters who obviously weren't able to get there last week. Hopefully they can this week. It is a big match, so yeah.
Do you feel like there's a real cohesion within the group at the moment?
Absolutely. I think what we've built on from last year with JL coming in and now being able to sort of put it into practice more often than not in the games to start the season. The group's really coming together and it's gelling from all ends of the spectrum, from the new guys coming in and to seeing what Dave is doing from his end. So it's been great, yeah.
The bookies actually have West Coast as favourites. Is that a bit on there?
The bookies are the bookies. They make the markets. And if you look at West Coast performances at home, they've been great. Even they're away, apart from on the weekend, they were in the game against Bulldogs and probably should have been St Kilda. So their form's been really good, and one game isn't going to define how they are as a footy team. They've got some guys coming back. So you've got to sort of, every team probably has an outlier in their season, and maybe that was theirs on the weekend.
And how important are those blokes coming back like Josh Kennedy and Shannon?
Oh, absolutely. You look at the leadership that they provide for their team, key posts at either end of the field, and get that cohesiveness and connection across the field. So, that, mind you, they're only two players, and coming back from injury can be tough at times. But I think what we've been able to do as a collective, we aren't necessarily going to be focusing on two guys or three guys for them.
Some have actually questioned their leadership, but do you think that's a strength in your side, leadership?
I think we've definitely built a strong leadership group and cohesiveness around that within our footy club, seeing the rise of Andy Brayshaw getting into the leadership group this year, and other guys around their sort of second, third, fourth years coming through. And it's an expectation from all players when you're on the field is to provide your own perspective on leadership and bring your best to the team.
You think Brennan Cox will play, Trav?
I hope he plays. I'm not sure. I think he's running today and they'll give him the best opportunity to get up for the game.
What sort of blow would it be if he doesn't, given that Kennedy comes back and he's got those big forwards?
It's not ideal, but I think last year throwing the team into a position where Lukey Ryan was playing tall and having Griff back last week I think is great, and it makes it a little bit of a harder decision as to how we're going to play, but I think we're mature enough and we've got the game plan that can allow us to cover for Coxie not being there.
Are you expecting it to be fired up West Coast given how much flack that Cox? Even the coach called him weak.
I think in a derby there's always going to be a little bit of extra fire at the start of the game, and when any team comes off a performance like that you want to rectify it as soon as you can. So I would expect them to come out and play their brand regardless of what the performance would have been last week.
Did Geelong give you a bit of a blueprint, Trav, as to where you can make West Coast break down?
We'll analyse them this morning in our Oppo preview, and having played West Coast a fair bit, we've obviously played them twice already, albeit with in different circumstances, and I think if we can play the way that we know that we can for longer periods. Against North Melbourne it wasn't necessarily how we expected for the whole game, but we're bringing it together. So I think we're in a really, really good position to know what they do, having just played them more than other teams.
Do you think a real area of strength for you guys is going to be the midfield, given it seems West Coast are undermanned? They probably underperformed in that area on the weekend, whereas you've got guys in career best form, running through the midfield right now.
Yeah, I think that starts with our game plan from the outset, and you look at what the guys have been doing with Nath, Dave, Caleb, Andy, and Big Shawnee Darcy in the ruck. I think what they've been able to provide us in the last couple of weeks, particularly getting the ball going forward and setting up the ground, like it's where our game starts, in the middle, and then it hopefully allows our defenders to sort of set up the ground and work as a collective unit.
How have you seen your own form, Trav? You've sort of been in and out of the side the past few years, but it feels like you're getting some consistency in your games at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, just having another pre-season with this group and to sort of get a bit of confidence back in my own performances and know what makes me the player that I am. And so it's just been, it's been nice at the start of the season. The reality was I was probably 23rd, 24th guy with some of the other small forwards ahead of me, and we've got real competition there. So to be able to put myself in a position to come in and play well has been really encouraging, and I hope that can continue.
Did you do anything different in the lead up to the season, or was it just getting a full pre-season under your belt? Or?
Not necessarily. I probably just was really specific on what my role was before we even came back to pre-season, and then just managed that, and it was just having weekly communication with David Hale, the forward coach, and JL, just to check in and get progress reports, really. And the rest, for me, I think just takes care of itself. It's going in there to each game with a clear mind and a clear focus, so then regardless of the result and what happens, you can review it and then improve from there.
And you'd be one of the few players that haven't won a derby. Does that add to the motivation?
I think so. I was a West Coast supporter growing up as well, so I sort of watched the up and down of the win-loss go back and forth, and now being at Fremantle, there's no doubt that I'd love to get a derby win as being a supporter and watching them to play, and for the team to go 5-2, for the club and the supporters. I think it's something that we really are striving to achieve.
What was it like playing in front of no fans again, and how much better will it be this week?
It was strange. We obviously did it last year against Essendon, and depending on the amount of crowd, I think it should assist us, because you do really need to generate your own energy, and just to understand the feeling of what it's going to be like. I think particularly in a derby with usually the largest crowd the two teams are going to play in front of in the home and away season. So it will help us a little bit, having experienced it last week, but at the same time it's not necessarily the greatest factor that's going to influence the result.
How do you go being booed? You like being booed?
Oh, it's not ideal, but fans have a right to cheer or boo in the way that they want to.
Do you almost hope that, well, not hope's not the right word, but because it's a West Coast derby, if there's less people allowed in, does that help you guys?
Perhaps. I think we worked a couple of weeks ago, coming off the Carlton performance, about crowd and momentum and what that can do, and took that into Adelaide, knowing the impact that it can have. You can't get away from it. It's there. It's a reality. So when an opposition crowd with their home game have less supporters, then it's a slight reduction in what that factor is that might be able to take you off task. But at the same time, it's not a defining factor on how we should perform, and we're ready for that regardless of what the result will be.
Just on another note, David Mundy's at the top of the coaches' votes at the moment. Do you just sit back and watch him in awe sometimes? Yeah,
absolutely. I think the goal on the weekend where he stepped a guy and just kicked it in, it almost looked in slow motion, but that's probably Dave going at full speed. It's been fantastic. I think the way that he approaches himself with his training and his outside life, he's just got such a great balance that he puts himself in the best position to perform. And so it's great, and the leadership that he's providing for the younger cohort of our group is brilliant. And it's just nice to see someone get the recognition that he deserves comp-wide.
Do you hope he goes on next year?
I absolutely, yeah. I can't see why not.
You thumped him in pre-season. Does that give you much confidence?
Well, the following week had a stronger side and got over the line. I think it allowed us to give younger guys a little bit of confidence of what our game plan can do when we execute it. But it's going to be a different contest on the weekend.